All right, everyone, welcome back to the Mustafa channel. We've got another first look. We've been getting a lot of these lately, a lot of aircraft coming out for the sim, which is absolutely awesome. And this time we're going back into the GA world. So we looked at the Fokker recently, new F170 variants, and now we're going to the world of GA with Black Square's latest release. And you know I love Black Square. With the Rockwell Commander 114, and this thing is shaping up to be an absolute beaut in the sim. First of all, it's just a gorgeous airplane, typical great modeling that we get here from Black Square, kind of a mid-tail, so it's not quite a normal tail that we would see the horizontal stabilizer coming out of the fuselage here, or the empennage. But rather kind of midway up, and not a straight T-tail either, but what I would call a mid-tail. I don't know if there's actually a term for that or not, but you know, there you go. So we've got the mid-tail going on there. Just beautiful lines. It reminds me a lot of the Piper Comanche, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. You get two base variants for the price of this guy. You get this one, which is the naturally aspirated engine, and then there's a turbo version, which was an aftermarket, I believe, edition. You could have a turbo fitted to this, and then also you get an air conditioner and some other things, so you can go up to a little bit of higher altitudes and things like that. So either way, I haven't actually done much flying with the turbo yet. I've actually been really enjoying the naturally aspirated, and that's what we're going to look at today. But I will jump over and show you the turbo at some point. Same thing, basically, but again with a few more systems. Some cool features, though, from Black Square that they've added with this release. And that is, we now have full state saving, or persistence, as we sometimes call it, in which it will remember where you left controls and how you set instruments and things like that. And there's three different categories. I'll show you that on the tablet when you get inside the airplane here in a moment. But you can kind of decide if you want persistence for only the really important instruments, if you want persistence for basically everything, or something in between. So they've given you some options. And they do say that this is an early state of persistence, so obviously there'll be some bugs with it, and there'll be some things that don't quite work, so they will be fine-tuning that as the aircraft goes through development, obviously. One of the things I've noticed is that even if you leave the chocks on the wheels, and then the gust lock and the little bits and bobs here, and come back to the airplane, if you have all the persistence turned on, all of those things are still there, like they should. Even the door open, if you left the door open, but the chocks are not saving. Now, there is a separate option in the tablet to say always start with chocks and covers. But again, that kind of defeats the point of persistence if you want to, maybe you didn't want to put the covers on one time, but you wanted the chocks and vice versa. So I think that's just a goof of the system. I'm sure they'll work that out eventually, but as of right now, best I can tell, at least with the aspirated one, maybe with the turbo, it works fine. But it doesn't seem to be saving the chocks. I haven't turned on the always start with the chocks on for that reason. So anyway, just something to be aware of. But there's some cool things you can interact with on the outside of the plane. For instance, you can actually touch the prop and kind of like shift it. Now, pay attention. This is a cool thing. This is another feature, is airframe vibration, resonance, and engine animations that we didn't have in previous versions. So obviously the prop will spin, that we're all used to. But look at the exhaust pipes here as I spin this engine. See how they move? It's like the whole engine is twisting inside, resisting the force, which a real piston engine would do. It's going to resist. There's compression in there. It doesn't want to move. And just like when a starter goes to start an engine, if you're ever to look at an engine in an engine bay, in a car engine or an airplane engine, and they first start, you see as that mass begins to turn, the shock mounts on the engine all try and resist the engine itself spinning around in its engine bay, and there'll be quite a bit of movement initially while the engine starts up, and you're seeing that there where the exhaust pipes are actually moving a little bit as the whole engine kind of like shimmies. And I'm curious if we pull those away. Yeah, look at that. You even see it in there. you see stuff moving around in the inside. So, whoops. Yeah, that's yeah. You can see it vibrating in there a little bit. So, very cool addition that Black Square has brought to us. The gear on this thing is, I think this is called trailing link gear. You'll see this on the BAE 146, and it's very rugged, very sturdy. It makes for very smooth landings in otherwise harsh landing environments. So, kind of cool seeing that on a little GA plane. Kind of beefy landing gear there. We've got our, obviously I don't have anything turned on right now, so you won't hear it, but this is the stall warning horn. Normally if there's avionics on, you click this, you'll hear that kind of as the thing begins to stall. And basically what that's doing is, as air's flowing over the wing, obviously it's pushing that back. But if you get the airplane up to a angle of attack such that the air starts to go up and around this as opposed to underneath like it should, you're no longer splitting the air over the wing, and there's too much of it going up over the top of this. It's actually going to disturb the air here, and that's what stalls a wing. So at the right before you reach that point, this is calibrated at the right angle to where this becomes in that position of the air. This will engage up, and you'll hear in the airplane a kind of a. There's another way to do that too, and that's Cessna was famous for that. A lot of times they put a little, it's just a little opening on the wing in just the right spot, and kind of like a flute. If the air blows into it just the right way, it'll create a harmonic. And the same thing would happen there. So you could actually blow on that and create that same kind of a thing. It's kind of cool. So we have, I'm not sure if that's a landing light or a vent. It looks like a vent, but obviously you have a light there. But we have I think we have a taxi light and a landing light. I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember now. So it may be a vent, and that may be a light. I'm not 100%. We'll have to kind of check and see. Like I said, I'm still a little bit new to this aircraft, so I'm still learning it, but it's very fancy. So, cool things you can do. You can move the elevators here. Now, you notice the rudder is moving, and that's actually accurate. There is a linkage inside to where when you move the ailerons, the rudder will move in a counter kind of way to help keep the airplane stable. Right now, though, we have a gust lock on, and so the everything's kind of shimmying, and it's not really moving the aileron because it's locked out. So that's accurate, and that's good that it's doing that. You can come over here and click open the side thing, and you can stow luggage. This is where you can put the wheel chocks. So if we were to do that, the wheel chocks go right there. We'll go ahead and do that for right now and put those away. And as we come around the other side here, I don't think there's much to do over here, aside from you can open the door, obviously. Now, you notice it doesn't want to open. Why not? Oh, because on this one, now this is really cool, you can walk up the wing like you could in the real airplane. And on top are these little locks for the door, and then you can open the door. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. And the fact that you can actually walk up the wing like that is super cool, because that's how you get in the airplane. So, so of course we've got the typical functional exterior elements, control locks, chocks, pitot covers, stuff like that. There's also a propane heater that's modeled that you can activate with the tablet for really cold starts. It's Florida in Fort Lauderdale in the summer right now, so we don't need that propane heater. But let's go ahead and get in the airplane. Well, let's take the some of the accoutrement off first. We already took that one off. Okay, good. And let's go ahead and get in the airplane and see what they've given us for an aircraft, because I think they've done a bang-up job. Go ahead and come over here, and we will slide into the airplane. All right, here we are in the pilot seat of the Commander 114. It's a 4-seater, and then you got the area in the back here where our chocks are. Looks like a little step or a seat right here, which is kind of interesting. Thought I saw a hand holder, but there's a little baggage area, circuit breaker light right there. It's interesting. Not much to see in the back here. This looks like audio jacks, yep, for people's headsets. There's some vents back here for cooling the airplane. This the naturally aspirated does not have an air conditioner, so if it's 105 out on the ramp, you want to get this thing going and up to altitude as fast as you can, because it's just going to get turned into an oven in here. And I remember training back in the day in Fresno in the summer. It gets into triple digits, and I was in a Cessna 172 after work, so it was like 5, 6 o'clock. And oh man, it was hot in those cockpits, and so you just couldn't wait to get that thing moving and going and open all the windows, and just even 10-degree cooler air felt good once you got a little height above you. So anyway, there's a gust lock right here we're going to remove to click to get that out of there. It just stows right there. And the instrument panel should look very familiar to you guys. But there's going to be some weird differences here and some quirky avionics, which I think is just super cool. So we obviously have our airspeed indicator. Black Square has done it again where you can click on these and kind of wiggle the needles. So if your needles get stuck, you can click on the glass and kind of unstick. This airspeed indicator has a whole bunch of information on it. We obviously have airspeed in knots on the outer, on the outer scale here, and on the inner scale essentially. But the inner is miles per hour, so you can convert that to miles per hour if you want. We have up here the ability to move this around by turning this knob, and we can mess with the temperature and align this with the pressure altitude with the temperature to get us a better and more accurate true airspeed, which will show on the outside. So the outside scale is actually true airspeed, the inside scale is knots, and the inner scale is miles per hour. And so you see these, as you move that, the true airspeed stops lining up with these. So right there is perfectly aligned, and that's 0, 0 up and down. And as you change the pressure altitude or the temperature range moves around, that will show you a different true airspeed. So it's kind of cool. We got a clock right here, and let's see, we can adjust the time like so, and that adjusts this little inner thing too. And I'm guessing one of these starts like a timer maybe, or no? I'm not sure what else you can do with that. I don't know what the red one is, unless it's just, you know, you're like making aim points, because one turns the little one turns the big one. I don't know. So I'm not sure what the point of that is, but anyway, there you go. Let's see, suction right there. We've got our turn coordinator, which for those of you in GA world are very familiar with that. Remember, guys, even your airliners have a turn coordinator, and you probably didn't even know it. At the top of the artificial horizon, there's a little pointer that signifies up, and right under that, oftentimes, a little rectangle. And that thing, if you notice, when you hit the rudder pedal side to side, it'll slide back and forth. That's the ball. A lot of people don't know that, but you got it. You don't need to use the rudder pedals very often on airliners, because most of them are tuned such that you really don't. And then plus with the yaw damper. But it is there. Right here we've got a horizontal indicator, HSI, compass card kind of deal. Very basic, very rudimentary. It's not a CDI, because we don't have a course deviation indicator in here. So it is literally just a HSI, horizontal situation indicator. Altimeter right here, and you can change the baro either in inches or hectopascals. This key is for starting the airplane. We'll deal with that in a little bit. Vertical speed indicator, obviously. And then you have two OBSs, like you are used to. These are where you would read VORs and ILS's indications normally. But one of these is very different than what you might be used to. This one will look like you've typically seen on a Cessna 172 and a billion other GA aircraft. But this one is a digital representation of the same thing. And so you can see here, we'll get this on and light it up here in a moment. But you can see here a green dot, a bunch of yellow dots, and then red dots. And this works just like you would expect with this needle. As the needle would swing this way, your dots increase. So if you have all the dots illuminated, that is full deflection of the needle. And if it's just a green dot, it's dead center. And same thing with the glide slope indicator. If it's all the way down, then that needle is all the way down here, and all the way up, and everything is just reduced to a single green dot, you are right on path, right on glide slope. So you can change the mode here. You can change the OBS, which is the omni-bearing selector, right there. That'll change the big course in there. And there's a glide slope light that'll illuminate to tell you you've got a glide slope. You've got a to from indicator here. These are the marker beacons. Marker beacons. I feel like I said it weird. Maybe not. Marker beacons. This is... Someone may have to correct me. I've never seen IOZ. So we obviously, in marker beacons, we have inner, outer, and middle marker. I would think the middle would be in the middle, but that seems to obviously be inner because it's an I. That would seem to be an O for outer. Is that the middle marker, or is the O the middle and Z is the outer? I don't know. I haven't flown over an ILS yet in this thing to see what goes off in what order, so that just seems a little odd to me. And I also haven't read that part of the manual, so that would probably answer it for me as well. But I like learning by doing, so there you go. Cabin temp, low, high. So you have a little light here to kind of tell you, hey, the cabin's getting a little cold, or this time of year, cabin's getting a little hot. Let's see, down below, we have a fuel flow indicator on one side and manifold pressure on the other. Need that because we do have a complex aircraft. We have a propeller control here, constant speed prop. RPM is right here. Over here, we have, this is not a weather radar, but it's a lightning detector. And so what'll happen is while this thing's running, it'll detect instances of lightning as little blips. And so you can figure out where the weather is and steer clear of it that way. What's goofy, too, is if you have this thing on and you cycle something of high amperage, like a pitot heater, you'll actually get little blips around here as it's detecting the arcs from the switch engaging the pitot heaters. It's super cool. So it's not a weather radar, but it does detect electrostatic discharge in the atmosphere at a distance and kind of help you figure out where the bad stuff is. So obviously that won't help you with updrafts and downdrafts and that kind of stuff, but you can rest assured if there's lightning over here, you want to steer clear of that anyway. This is the autopilot right here, and then right here is a specifically ILS instrument, ILS 400 TSO. And I have not had the pleasure of using this, but it works in the same principle as our digital guy over here. It's also digital. You can see these little diode guys. You can see all the little circuit board traces on there too. It looks very futuristic. This one says inner, middle, outer. So this seems to make me think that this is inner, middle, outer, but maybe it's just, I don't know, the nomenclature's weird, so I don't know. Hopefully they're colored, so when they light up, it's actually the colors like white, orange, and blue, and then you would know for sure. But anyway, so you use this to select the ILS frequency. So you select the frequency in this, and do all the things right here. This is not actually attached to any of the radios, so you can do an ILS visualization here or here, I guess in theory. So kind of have two, which is kind of cool. Let's see, we can move the yoke out of the way if we want to. Down here we've got the master battery switch and pitch trim, electric pitch trim. You'll need that to engage the autopilot. We have some information gauges, so your battery amps right here, battery volts, and then fuel tank left and right. Obviously they're all showing dead right now because the ignition's off. On this side, a cumulative cylinder head temperature, so this is going to be a I'm not going to say it, I know this for sure. My imagination would tell me this is like a sum of the cylinder head temperatures, and it's like averaging them into one. Or it just has picked one, and it's telling you. But that seems counterintuitive, because you could have one that goes off the rails, and it would have no effect on this gauge, and you could have a cylinder head that was going crazy hot, and you'd never know it. So I would assume this is like a running average of your cylinder head temps. And then you have oil pressure indicator, oil temperature, and rudder trim right here. Also down here, you've got these little takeoff and landing things, and I'm guessing these are little like, hey, check these things before you take off, like controls, instrument, gas selector and pump, altitude, and run up prop set, and then for landing, gas selector and pump, undercarriage down and locked, mixture and propellers. So kind of like GUMPs or people's little acronyms for remembering what to do on landing or takeoff. I'm assuming that's what those are for your memory items there. Obviously, we have the rudder pedals right there. This is the knob for the nose rudder trim. Landing gear emergency down, pull out, and push down. So this is the emergency landing gear release. This is a friction lock for these guys, which I don't think really does anything in the sim. You can put on the headphone simulation to damp down engine noise in the cockpit if you want. This is, like I said, the vent, and they have these little openings right here. And you'll see the effect of this in the tablet that we'll look at here in a moment, because Black Square always models their stuff really cool. All right, we're coming over to some really cool stuff now. So right here is where you're going to select altitude. So if you're going to use the autopilot and you want to hold altitude, you've got three things right here. First of all, you have a baro that's rounded to the nearest tenths. So if the barometric altitude is 29 or 9 or 2, like that's standard, this should say 29er, 0.9er. But that means there's nothing else besides, you can't do 0.9 or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever. It's just 0.9er. You could also, I guess, in theory, call it 0.8 because, well, no, sorry, 0.9er. If you're in a round up situation, so if it was 5 and up, you might call this 3.0. Just so that way it's closer, because you want to, if it was 2.9 or 9 or 9er, if you set 2.9er, oops, gotta figure out which way to go here. If you set it like that, then you're really practically off by a whole step. So anyway, you would set that there. This is not for calibration of your instruments, but rather for the altitude hold. And then in the altitude, this is decimalized as well. So you have, this is 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet. This would be 2,500 feet. So you have 2,000 decimal 500. Next to that is your vertical speed, and I believe, I haven't confirmed this, but I think so. I think white is up and yellow is down. I believe, based on the way I'm running the wheel, and I think that's the case. That would make sense to me anyway. So 0, 0, the yellow down, white up, I think. We'll take it up and we'll find out. It could be backwards. This right here is your localizer source switch. So right now this localizer is using the nav radio. If you want to use this cool RNAV instrument, which we're going to talk about, you would need to switch this down to the RNAV source, and then this will display the RNAV source, not the standard localizer, or the standard nav radio source. Let's see, those are just the servos and autopilot, various circuit breakers there. This guy, I'm not sure where he's displaying the information. You obviously have the EDM 800 down here, which is going to cycle through all kinds of information. But this specifically going between fuel flow and EGT, I'm not sure where this is displaying. I haven't played with that yet, so, and it just says all, so unless this forces this just to stick on fuel flow or EGT. That's possible, I guess. I don't know. Let's see, coming over, actually let's go down here and we'll come back to this. You have a gear indication, gear handle, because this is a retractable gear aircraft. You have an alternate air source, so you can push that in right there. We'll see that on the tablet. Your various lights and fuel pump. So fuel pump there, which is an auxiliary. There's an engine attached fuel pump that will run anytime the engine's running. So this is a supplement and used if you're starting the engine and it's not running yet, you need a pump. Pitot heat, anti-collision, so also as your beacon, nav lights, instrument lights. This is not exterior, so exterior, exterior, inside, exterior, exterior, which is kind of funky to me, but whatever. And then landing lights and strobe, and then flaps up, down, switch. And you have a flaps guy right here. You got 0, 10, 20, 25, 35. And it says here to use flaps 10 to 20 for takeoff. So don't use over 20 for takeoff, and that means 25, 35 is landing. You've got the limited environmental controls for the naturally aspirated cabin vent. This is a vent, I believe, that comes off of the tail and pushes into the cabin. Cabin heat comes off the heating manifold and comes in the cabin, and defrost deflects that cabin heat up onto the windshields. Avionics master switch right there. A bunch of circuit breakers, which are all modeled because it's black square, so it's awesome. You got light for the circuit breakers there. You got some USB plugs for funsies. I'm kind of sad you can't open the ashtrays. Not that I smoke, but it's always just kind of fun to be able to do that. And then let's come to the radios, because this is where it's going to get fun. So in typical black square fashion, there's a number of radio options. And I'm old school, so I like the old school stuff. So right now I have it set to the MX170Bs for both, but then I also have the RNAV 511. You can also put in here the GPS, standard GPS stuff. In fact, we'll show you those options right here. So for primary, I'm using the RNAV 511. That's this guy here. You can just do this and have 170Bs on everything, and that will do that. So it puts the just the 2 radio sets and then the transponder down there and nothing else. It's kind of sad, but it's fun having the RNAV thing. You can also use the KLN90B. This requires a download from GitHub, but I have this already. I use it in the Comanche and a number of other aircraft. This is a fun, if you want to use a GPS but want to be a little still old school, this is a fun compromise. It's got quite a learning curve, but it's a fun little unit, and I enjoy it. And it looks like the KLN90 gives you still the RNAV 511 over here, which is kind of cool. You also have the GNS 530, which you can put in here, which is going to probably put it right there. Yep, there we go. So, and that takes care of a comm and a nav spot, so you only have one more comm nav down here, and you've got that guy. And the GTN 750 is the whole shebang, and your other comm nav radio over here, and then RNAV 511 is still sitting over there. So on the secondary side, that's that comm nav. So you could also put the 430 or the 650 over here, and I think the 650 will get rid of that, I think. Let's see here. Oh, no. So you have that RNAV thing no matter what. That doesn't go away. That's kind of cool. But yeah, so some cool, interesting options here. And then this hide vintage right here, that's this stuff here. So if I click that, it's going to take that away, and it gives you a glove box to put your gloves in. But who wants to hide the vintage stuff? Obviously, you can also use this with the PMS 50 GTN and TDS GTN XI. If you've paid for those and downloaded them, those are options as well. But we are going to use the RNAV 511 and the MX170B, and we're going to confirm that because that is what I like doing, and it's more fun, in my opinion. It's fun. This is why we get these aircraft, so we can learn this old school nav. Here's where the state saving is, by the way. While we're here, I might as well talk about it. So non-essential, flight critical, and avionics. And the manual will kind of go into talk about what each of those categories means and what state saving will look like. You got some options down here. This is VR tablet static position, so if you have VR, the tablet won't move around. Control, alt select with hardware events. So if you want to use the hardware stuff up here, I think this is what you turn on to make sure LVARs will select that. I need to probably do that because I need to do some programming in SPAD, but I haven't played with it yet, so that's why that's off. Here's that always load with covers and chocks deployed, so again, I have that off. Cloud strobe effect, this is so the strobe lights will reflect off clouds and stuff. And then show Copilot from inside, I have that off because I don't like guys sitting next to me, it's kind of weird. But I don't think I have a Copilot selected in Microsoft anyway, so I don't think it'll show up. Let's see, and VATSIM monitor all when COM 1 and 2 selected, so I probably should turn that on too, so that way if I do that, then in vPilot it will monitor both those comms. So that way you can monitor guard. Before we get into the fun of the RNAV, let's just go through the tablet real fast and talk about it. And if you've had Black Square products before, this should be very familiar to you. So obviously we have our options we just kind of went over in the avionics and things. Payload. This is where you load your aircraft. So you can open doors, refill oxygen. I don't think this one has oxygen to refill because I don't see anything about oxygen here. And again, that's primarily because it's naturally aspirated. If the engine can't breathe, it's assumed you can't breathe either, so you're not going to go that high. So I think this is only for the turbo version. but you can refill the fuel tanks just by clicking up or down. You can obviously put people in the seats or not by clicking on those things. And you see the airplane change as the center of gravity moves around. You can make the pilots or the passengers weigh more or less. Too bad weight loss in reality isn't that simple, but oh well. And then you can also deal with rear baggage, and then up or down as far as you wish there. Exterior elements, you can turn on or off the wheel chocks, pitot covers, and engine heater right there. There's that engine heater that we do not need. That's Florida, but that's that guy right there. You can hear him going. Let's turn that off. And then it'll give you some information over here. So the empty weight of the airplane is 1,885 pounds. Our max takeoff weight is 3,140. Our useful load means it's 1,255 that we can take. Our gross weight right now is 2,715, so we're under that max takeoff weight. Fuel on board is 25 gallons or 151 pounds, and that equals about 2 hours of endurance or a range of 293 miles. So you can kind of get an idea based on your flight plans and stuff like that. Hey, am I good? Am I not? And all those things. And then obviously keep an eye on your CG here, make sure it's within the forward and aft limits. And you can do this in gallons and pounds, or if you're a communist, you can use liters and kilograms. I kid, my European friends. All right, engine. So you can repair the engine there, engine conditions showing 100%, battery capacity showing 100%. But I love that Black Square does this. A2A, I think, started this kind of deal, and Black Square perfected it. But just giving you, I mean, this is an amazing training tool for understanding how the engine works, how it is working, how it's functioning, how it's heating. I mean, it's just super cool to be able to see this. As someone who loves mechanical things and how they work, this is just, I love this. I absolutely love it. You can see the alternator is connected by a belt here to the prop shaft. The starter right here, even the pinion is retracted right now. When you hit the starter key, this pops out, engages the flywheel, and turns. You see we don't have any oil right now in the propeller for moving around the propeller system, because obviously the oil pump's not running. But you see the oil pump there. We've got the electric pump and the engine pump, neither of which are running right now. But if we turn on the electric pump and the master switch, you'll see that guy start to run. Cowl flap position, mags position. This is the exhaust stream here. You can see at this point, this is what's showing the exhaust temperature, which right now is close to ambient because there's nothing in the pipe. Air coming in. There's an alternate air source right here. So as we do that alternate air source, look at that. It pulls that in. So you can, and it's binary. See that? So like I can go part way and it doesn't do anything. So this switch is an all or nothing. It's ambient or alternate. And again, you would do that if for some reason where the air is coming in at, there's a problem, it's blocked, there's a blockage, there's contaminants, who knows. And I'm not 100%, I have to look outside the airplane and see where the alternate source is. My guess is it's a side of the cowling or something, who knows. Anyway, cowl flap for helping cool the engine down. So as air rushes into the engine, it'll flow over the engine. It's an air-cooled engine. And if that air doesn't have anywhere to go, it just, I mean, there's a certain amount of cooling that can take place, but that heat can't really escape, or at least escape well. And so it just builds up and builds up and builds up and it gets warm in there, which is good if you're flying at high altitudes and cold weather. You want to keep that engine warm. But if it's hot day and you need to keep that engine cool, by pushing that open, it dumps that hot air out and allows the fresh air to push in and exchange that air and keep that engine cool. So it's kind of cool. But that also causes a little bit of drag, so there's a trade-off. You've got your Venturi here as it goes in to mix with the air. Then there's the fuel lines right here that's coming. You can see that kind of coming across. If it was a carbureted engine, the fuel would dump in here, but the fuel is dumped in as an injection side. So fuel-injected engines, they're going to sit right there. And you can even see the valve position. Look at that. See that valve open right there? And that valve open right there. And that's why when you try to turn the engine, it resists, because all these cylinders are just sealed. So that air is a compressed, you're trying to compress that air. You're trying to compress that air. All that's going to compress. Or you're trying to draw a vacuum on stuff that doesn't want to, like, there's no vacuum to draw. Like this. So all that resists you. It's very cool. So very cool. You can clear the cylinders, clean plugs, repair starter, recharge battery, all kinds of stuff there. Electrical. Same thing. Electrical schematic will show you what's running, what's on. Stuff not showing here, air conditioning bus, because we're not using the turbo version. So it's a little more simpler on this one, but you can see there's a whole bunch of other stuff in the turbo that we'd have to deal with. And then down here, we actually see the hydraulic system for the gear, and the gear will actually show movement as you pull it up or put it down, and then give you the lights to show the gears down or up, which is silly cool. Cabin. You can see here in Florida, it's about 79 degrees Fahrenheit. I wish it was 79 here. It's like 102 here in Fresno. And so here you can see the engine exhaust runs over a heat exchanger here. And so as ram air comes in, that air is heated up by not going through the exhaust stream and therefore getting filled with carbon monoxide and all kinds of other nasty stuff. But it heats up this envelope here from the gases going around it, and that heats the air and goes into this manifold here. And then this can either go to the defrosters right here, or the cabin heat, which is right here. It opens these guys, and that cabin heat can then flow in through these floor vents. And these floor vents, if you watch that guy right there, I can open and close. So that floor vent is now fully open. And you can do that with all 4 of them, so it's kind of cool. But it really allows you to kind of see what's going on. So that opens the defrosters right there. And the vent is... oh, it's this guy. It's these ram airs right here. So the tail inlet is always open, and then you have the outflow right here. So you're always going to have a certain amount of air coming in. But if you want more, you can open these cabin vents, and you'll get ram air from the sides coming in. And that's what goes to these floor vents. So this just goes to these fresh air vents that I think are coming up the top here. Yeah, these little outlets and stuff. All right. And it'll show you some ear discomfort there. Again, air conditioning stuff will show here too, but we don't have that because we don't have the air conditioner. And then failures, this is another cool thing that Black Square does, is there's a whole bunch of failures that you can trigger if you want to practice failures. You can also set the global failure rate to be stupid high, so you'll get failures randomly constantly, or almost never, or completely never. You can turn failures off if you want. You can do the MTBF mode, which is the kind of just the random failure. You can schedule failures, and this is where you can schedule them within certain periods of time. You can toggle this to only show the active failures. So right now we have none, and you can reset them all and restore default. So really kind of cool. Someone was mentioning the only thing that they haven't implemented yet is an airplane age. So A2A did this with the Comanche, in which they basically said you could have the airplane in a brand new state, in a like a moderately used state, or a dilapidated, completely not taken care of state, and that would kind of help determine kind of what things are going to fail and how often. And you can kind of do a similar thing with this. So essentially putting it in anything within the green, I would say is probably a new aircraft kind of level. Yellow to red is probably, yellow is definitely like a moderate thing, and then red to pink is like you bought the worst airplane in the world. And then of course turning the failures off just turns the failures off. So anyway, that is the tablet. Typical Black Square, very awesome. Now let us talk about some cool retro navigation things. This is the RNAV 511. Now a GPS, typical GPS, will allow you to fly to any point that you can imagine, because you can put in a lat long or specify a user point via lat long and fly to it. The aircraft goes, okay, I'm here, I need to go over there, so I'm flying that way, and that's how GPS works, coordinating with satellites and stuff to know where you are and where these points are. It's very cool. This is not GPS. This is RNAV, early RNAV, before we had GPS. And what this allows you to do is, now you have to be within range of a VOR, because your aircraft has to be able to sense the VOR. So this doesn't just, you can't be in Antarctica and say, I want to move the Clovis VOR over to Antarctica and use it. That's not going to work. So there are some limitations with this, but it is very cool. So let me give you an example of what you can do with this. I'm going to pull up Navigraph rather. And let me click. I know you can't see it yet. Don't worry. I'm trying to get rid of informations I don't need you to see at the moment. Okay, this is good right here. So let's go. And I'm just gonna. Okay, that is working good. This one. Want to make sure the magic was working. Okay, so this right here is the Paso Robles VOR. Okay, sitting here in Paso, and I'm going to use this as an example because I did this the other day. So this waypoint right here is Lake Hearn. This is a typical GPS only waypoint. You could fly to this if you with a direct to with a standard GPS. Put in LKHRN and you're good to go. Now, I was taking off out of the Kalinga Harris Ranch Airport the other day in this airplane. And my flight plan said I wanted to take off, get some altitude, then I was going to go straight over here, and I was going to go to Lake Hearn. And the reason I was going to do that is because if I look at the IFR low chart, from Lake Hearn, there's a nice direct path up to the Salinas VOR, and then I can do the approach into Monterey. And it's like doing some, I mean, I could obviously navigate that just visually, but if I wanted to do some navigation, that's how I would do it. But there's no good VOR to pick up direct. I could maybe pick up Salinas, or I could maybe have gone up to the Panoche VOR and gone over, stuff like that. But I wanted to go right here and then go up. That just, I wanted to do it that way. Because why not? I'm the pilot. I'll do what I want. So, what this RNAV device has the ability to do is, if when we take off, we can sense the Paso Robles VOR, meaning it's in range, we can effectively move the VOR to be at Lake Hearn. And it sounds like voodoo magic, and it kind of is. It's all done with, the VOR and math and stuff that I don't understand fully, but it does it, and it's super cool. So what you would do is you would tell it, you need to know what VOR, you'd put that VOR into the system. You would then tell it the radial off the VOR, the point you want to move it to. So we'd need to know the radial from here to Lake Hearn, and I'm going to explain why this got really complicated in a moment, and it's going to make you think about things, but hopefully for the better. But I wanted to move the Lake Hearn VOR over there. So we need the radial to the Lake Hearn, and then we need the distance from the VOR to where we want to move it, to the virtual site. And if you have those three things, the VOR frequency, the radial, and distance of where you want to go, and you'll be in range of that VOR the whole time. That's the other thing. Like, you wouldn't want to make this VOR, go way out the snot over here, because at a certain point you're going to lose the VOR, and then that whole program goes to poo. So it has to, this only works within a certain range. So it's, again, this was early RNAV. It gave you the ability to do some things around a VOR that you would have trouble doing without doing it this way. So if you have those things, you can move the VOR. So what that looks like is this. If we come back over to this instrument here, we would put the radial of the VOR, which in this case I think was like 330 or something. And then the distance, which was like 21.6 or something like that. And then we would program the VOR on our VOR number one, just like we normally would. And we'd tell this to go to RNAV. And if we were in range and all that stuff was on, it was on RNAV right here, this instrument would now detect Lake Hearn as if it was the VOR and would show us left of course, right of course, to from, the whole shebang. And we could dial this guy. This would tell us down here the bearing direct to the station from where we currently were. And so we could set that, or we could set our own radial or own bearing to the station and fly to the station from that bearing. So if I wanted to fly to Lake Hearn on a, let's see, it would be on the, the 297 radial, or I guess it would be a 297 inbound. It would actually be on the opposite radial of it. But we could fly that. We could do that. We could tell it, hey, I know that's not my direct point to the station, but I want to fly it there, and it would make the appropriate adjustments and stuff. It's really cool, and it takes a little bit to get your mind around that, of like how that works. but it's really cool. And so we're going to take this up. I'm going to program it for you. We're going to show you how it works, and it's really cool. The reason why this is where this comes into play now, and this is where some simisms get a little annoying. So this is Navigraph we're looking at, and the reason why this can get complicated is I want to draw your attention to a few things. So first of all, true north and magnetic north. You need to understand the difference, right? True north is following these grid lines right here. Those lines represent true north, essentially. They're going to go up to the very top of the North Pole, boom, done. That's not where magnetic north lives. It may live there at some point, and it probably has at some point in the past, but very rarely does it actually live there. And in fact, it's quite a ways off from the physical North Pole. And so we fly in aviation with magnetic north. So all of our VORs, you'll notice, have their north pointer kind of cockeyed. Now, they won't be cockeyed around Louisiana, because that is where magnetic north and true north essentially are the same in that region. Because of where the orientation is to magnetic north, it lines up with where true. You have to go through magnetic north to get up to true north, because they're in the same line of sight, essentially. So if you look at a VOR down here, its pointer is almost completely straight up. And this is called magnetic variation. So if you're into aviation, hopefully this isn't a new concept for you, but if I just blew your mind, I'm going to take you down a path. I'm going to take you down the primrose path of magnetic variation and all the crazy things. So when you click on a station or an airport, this is going to be Paso Robles, and it's going to tell you magnetic variation. This is a really bad example because the magnetic variation here is not correct. So we're going to look at this one here. So this is the Cisco GPS waypoint, and it's going to tell us the magnetic variation is 12.1 degrees east. That means if you were to take true north, we need to add 12.1 degrees to it to get the magnetic heading at the same location, to make true north and magnetic north both be the same. So what that means, because we navigate by that, it means that when you're trying to get a radial, if it's not a published radial, so this is a published radial right here, and it's hard to see, and I'm going to do this because it'll be easier to see with the thing. So it has 326 right here. This is basically a sky vector overlay on Navigraph charts, which is cool because they've never made this thing where you can change the size of these bearings and stuff. So 326 off of this. What you'll notice, though, is this line right next to it says 334. But watch what happens when I use the Navigraph measuring tool, and will give us a heading. And we put it on 334, and it says 334. I don't know if you can see that right there. But if we move this over on top of the white line, it says 330, not 334. And definitely not 326, which is what it should say. So why is there a difference? Well, this is the first problem with magnetic variation, in that the way a VOR station works is it has to be calibrated for the magnetic variation. And because magnetic variation changes over time, it has to be recalibrated. So if we go in to look at this station, we're going to see, and I have to get really close to it because it always wants to default to the airport. So the magnetic variation here at Cisco was 12.1. It's not going to change that much going this direction. It's going to be 12.1 or 12.2 at the most different. It says magnetic variation is 16. Uh-oh. That's a 4-degree difference. That's because this station was last updated in 1970. And it just holds that magnetic variation. So when you fly outbound on a radial off of the VOR, you have to fly the VOR's magnetic variation. But if you fly out of this point on your GPS, it will fly true magnetic courses that will allow you to fly whatever. So it's very confusing. Your HSI will show you one thing, and your OBS will show you another thing. And so that's why there's a 4-degree difference here between between this and this other guy. And And what's goofy here is this says 333 in the sim, so it's actually Navigraph's data is actually wrong by 1 degree, because it does show it correctly here as 334. So this should be 330 if we were using standard magnetic variation, because the magnetic variation is wrong. It's showing this. Now the reason why this one in blue shows you with correct magnetic variation and this one doesn't is because this, the blue line, is a true RNAV point. That's not using the Paso Robles VOR as its point. It's using a GPS waypoint at the Paso Robles VOR. So it has correct magnetic variation information. But all of the traditional, the white lines, all of the traditional Victor Airways or Jet Airways are based off of VORs. And therefore, they have to follow the magnetic variation that is built into the station, which may or may not have been updated in quite some time. So it can get kind of confusing. So I say all that not to scare you away from this, but just to show you that it's complicated and it's kind of awesome to understand all this stuff. And it's never just as simple as point and click. You have to kind of wrap your head around this, and it hurts my brain, and I love this stuff. So I can understand if it's like destroying yours. But believe me, dig into this sometime. It's fascinating, and it'll take you on a trip. And the more you learn about this stuff and learn how to do navigation with VORs like we did back in the day, the more fun this becomes. I swear. It actually becomes fun, but it is kind of trippy. So just know you need to know the difference not only between true north, magnetic north, but you need to know the difference between your magnetic variation in your area and the magnetic variation of the station you're using, because they may or may not be the same. Thankfully on Navigraph, it is very simple to simply go and click on any waypoint, and it will tell you what the magnetic variation is. Clicking on a GPS waypoint of any kind will give you an accurate current magnetic variation, but clicking on a VOR station may not. And same thing with an airport, by the way. So this surprised me. Paso Robles Airport is out of date because it thinks its magnetic variation is 15. So even the airport itself doesn't have accurate magnetic variation information, which I found surprising. I don't know how many airports are out of date like that. I would think an airport that's like constantly managed would be up to date, but who knows? So, but yeah, the GPS waypoints are always going to be current, so you can rely on those to check. There is an option, by the way, in Navigraph. I keep turning this off and I keep turning it back on. Over here, under 9.5, magnetic variation, that should give you the isogonic lines. That's a fun word to say, by the way, which will tell you where the magnetic variation lines change in the area. But I can't get it to work, so I think something's bugged out on it. But I watched a video by Two Tone Murphy from a year ago where he was doing it, and it showed it. So it worked at one time, and so I'm not sure if they're aware it's broken right now. But I've tried it in SimToolkit Pro, and I've also tried it on just their website, and it doesn't work into place. So not sure what's going on there, but that is an option. If you're flying in the U.S., whoops, I did not mean to do that. If you're flying in the U.S. and you go into Sky Vector, you can see the isogonic lines, and that's these purple lines right here. And so you can see here where it says 0 degrees, 30 minutes east. This one should be 0. So this is where I was talking about before, right around Louisiana. This is the 0 magnetic variation line. So if you were to trace this line up, stop grabbing the map, tracing it all the way. Actually, it's going to end at the U.S. border, so it's actually not going to be that helpful. I was going to say we could actually find the magnetic North Pole, but and now I broke the map. I've angered it. Is my internet dying? I don't know. Anyway, essentially you could follow that line all the way up and it should intersect with wherever magnetic north is. But because this really only covers the U.S., I think it's going to stop once it gets to Canada anyway. And I am correct. Yep, it stops right there. So somewhere in Canada up here is magnetic north. And it's probably not too far from the pole. It's probably somewhere up in this Hinter's land up here. But it's off enough to where if the North Pole is here and the magnetic north is here, by the time you get further away over this way, it becomes a difference of degrees that you have to account for. So that's magnetic north for you. So anywho, that's the fun with that. So that's what that device is. That's what it's for, and that's how you can navigate. And I've done it, and it's cool. It's fun. Transponder over here. This is an ADF finder. So NDBs, non-directional beacon. You tune them on this old school looking thing, and they thought of you, by the way. So even though it's this ridiculous, like, how can I tell what I'm tuning? It shows you the actual frequency. It pops up here. Black square has your back. So you can actually tune with confidence, and you can only tune in certain ranges. So you move the range up to tune different ones and down into different subsets of the ranges. So it'll kind of give you an idea of what area you're tuning. I don't know how many of you have ever tuned an NDB before or used an ADF radio, but there you go. And of course, then the big needle, all it is, it's like a VOR, except it's a direction finder. It just points to it. So it doesn't give you a radial. You can fly kind of a radial by moving your airplane and watching the needle move around and then flying to the station that way. It's like a poor man's VOR. But it's really just a radio direction finder. So, and that's all that is. Over here, though, is your DME. So you might be wondering, there's no DME readouts on the OBS stuff. If you need to find DME, I think this is only tied to your number 1. I don't know that there's a DME readout on number 2, unless that's where this guy shows up down here. We'll try that in the airplane here in a little bit and see. But that might be what that is. Right there is showing you VOR DME on number 1 or number 2, and then this is either number 1 or number 2. I know it worked for one of them because I did it. And again, you have different ranges, so you can set it to 100 nautical miles range, so 30, 50, 70, 90, 35, so it's a little fine-tuned, 0, 10, 20, 30, or off. And then knots, which, given the scale, I'm not sure what it's like. I thought I understood this would be like you're flying to the station. It'll sense how fast you're closing the distance, and it will give you an estimate of your true airspeed or your ground speed. But it only goes up to 30, so that can't be right. So unless these are 100 knots, 200 knots, 300 knots, which that may be the case. And in this airplane, you're never going to get over 200 knots, so it's really only going to ever be here. So as I said that out loud, I'm guessing that's probably what that is. But you got some options there. And then never mind. It's not tied to any radio. That's right. You have to set it here. So tune 115 and then choose the sub frequency there. So yeah. So you have one DME for one radio at your leisure. You pick and do what you want to do. Cow flap is a binary. It's on or off. There's not really a in between. And then your throttle, your prop, and your mixture control. You got a Hobbs readout right there for managing your engine time and your parking brake. That is, I think, a full overview of this cockpit. So with all that done, let's see how she flies, shall we? So let's go ahead and we're going to close the door. And I'm going to open that window. We need to make sure we lock the door. Otherwise, bad things. And I'm going to go ahead and put the yoke back. We're going to go ahead and turn the engine, the electrics on. That's going to boot this guy up. We're not going to turn the avionics on until we get the engine running. So we got that going. Alternate air is in. Yeah, okay, good. And here's where we can do some things to see how, because I haven't actually checked this, so I'm curious, because I think they are fuel injectors, if the priming thing is necessary. And I'm wondering if it is or not. So let's see. If we go full mixture and do, prop should be full up as well. And let's do full, oops. Got a funky throttle there. Okay, full throttle. If I do, oh, by the way, this is something you should be aware of too. Elevator trim right here. This is the readout for the trim. And you want it to have it in this little box for neutral for takeoff. This is your fuel selector. So you have left, both, and right. And you cannot select it to off unless you click this guy, and then you can go off. So it's a safety, so you can actually turn your fuel off. So normally you run them in both. But if you notice it's only dragging from one tank or the other tank is too high or something, then you have the ability to run out of the other tank to try and even them out. You can't transfer fuel between them, but you can say, well, let's see, if the left is higher than the right, I better run the left more and get it equal, or vice versa. So we're going to put the fuel selector to both. So what I want to find out is if I'm actually doing anything by priming this. So with fuel pump on, and it is. Okay, see how there's putting fuel in the cylinder? So that is doing that. So I'm going to do that. Turn the fuel pump off. And I'm going to pull the throttle back, crack it a little bit. And we'll do this with the thing there so you can kind of see the animation because I think it's cool. Move the key into position. And as you, look at that, as you light up the magnetos, they light up. So right, left, both. And then we're going to hold it and start. Look at that, fires right up. And you'll see this color change to a darker red, magenta as the cylinders get hot. You hear they kind of sound a little, they're kind of working themselves up. You can kind of run the throttle up a little bit here to kind of work out any kind of carbon buildup that's in there. And then pull it back. We should probably keep it right around 1,000 while it's warming up. You don't want the engine oil isn't very thick yet, so you want to make sure that's all good to go. We watched that engine hub right there. I don't know if this will work with the engine at this low RPM. No, it won't. Well, no, there it goes. See how the oil's pushing it into the thing? That's how the prop is moved right there. It's kind of cool. Exercise the prop. But you see our oil pump is running. You can see the engine pump is running, so you don't need the electric. When we turn the electric on, it just adds another pump before the other pump. So it's a pump on a pump. Not really necessary, so we can turn that off. There's the cowl flap. So you can see here, brings that up. And if you go, I guess you can do neutral positions. It just isn't, it's not set up to be that way, I guess. So, okay, good thing. We'll learn some there. And the alternator automatically is charging the battery, so the battery's at 100% capacity. We look at our electronics and see most of that stuff's on, but we have not turned on our avionics. So if we do that, there goes the avionics bus. And we didn't turn on the electric trim. So we'll turn that on. I'm not sure why that didn't go green. Interesting. Also the DME. Turn that on. There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure why electric trim. Maybe the RPM has to be at a certain... Oh, you know what? It's because we've armed the electric trim, but the autopilot's not engaged. That's why. That's why. Yeah, I'll bet the minute we engage an altitude thing, it'll... Yep, bingo, there it goes. Kill the autopilot. Put it back to where I want it. So yeah, that's why. All these other ones you can see what go on when we turn on the various things. The hydro pump only runs when we go to raise the gear or lower the gear, so that's only going to happen there. Cabin you can see now has a lot of heat back here, but thankfully we got those things off, so just dumping that heat overboard right there through the exhaust. But it is almost 80 degrees in here, so it's going to get warm. So I'll put that away. Let's see if we can test this guy on the ground. We have a VOR nearby. Let's see. We're in Fort Lauderdale. Oh, there's a VOR on the field. Beautiful. 114.4. So if we come over here, the way this guy works, you've got your front number, your big number, and your after the decimal number, and you can tell which one is going to be touching by where this little peg is. So if we hit this right here between navigation and comms, that switches that peg. So now these knobs are doing this. Now these knobs are doing this. So we're going to set 114.4. It's already 14. So we're going to set 4. And then swap it. I don't know what that guy does. VCID. I'm not sure what that guy's doing. But you notice when we do that, this guy came to life. And so now we can see, if we cycle this guy, we're in the from mode right now. Based on where we are on the field, I would imagine we're going to be pointing it around 2 270, 80, somewhere in there, maybe. Although, are we not where I think I am on the field? Doesn't seem to be jiving. 331. Oh, I guess that could be right. Although that should be a to indicator. That shouldn't be a from indicator. Yeah. Because going the other way. Because we're east of the VOR. So somehow this is backwards. The VOR should be over there. Well, over there specifically. That's just concerning. Let's try something here. Let's go 114. Yeah, see, it thinks the bearing is 150. Or sorry, bearing's 98. But that shouldn't be right. 114.4. Huh. Well, that is strange. That swings that guy. This one's showing right. Look at that, too. Yeah. Interesting. I love how it's got the little, like, swing to it, so you gotta, like, be gentle with it while it finds itself. Also, we're really close to the VOR, so, you know, within half a mile, so it's gonna be kind of fidgety. But that's giving us a 2 indication, which is correct. Going west, to the west, we should be getting a 2, but we're getting the opposite on this instrument, which is very strange. We put in, well, that says bearing 9.8. If we go 9.8, we're not. Something's hokey there. That seems to be backwards. We have GPS. OBS leg. Oh! We were on RNAV. I'm an idiot. Probably yelling at the screen right now. Look at that. There we go. So, let's see. Bearing. RNAV on. No, that's right. So, that's not to be believed. That's other things. I would think that would give you... Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I think that's the bearing based on this information. It's making computations. It's like we've moved it. So let's see here what we get. There we go. Yeah, so it's 7978, somewhere in there, and we got the 2 indicator there. So we can change the mode here and go to track, and I forget what that does. It means I can't move the OBS anymore. It might be... Oh, you know what it is? Oops, not that. Yeah. So track will give us the bearing to the VOR. So if I engage track, so it just lines up with it. So I have it set right here to 330. Boom, locks in at 278, and then undoes it. So it can be a quick little way to do a direct to a VOR station if you want. So that's kind of cool. And then RCP, I think, just flips it reciprocal. Yeah, so you can find the reciprocal and fly the outbound. You want to. So yeah, that's how that works. And then obviously the comms works just like you would expect. You can put them in 25 mode or in oh, I don't want to do that from there. Let's go to comms. So in the 25 hertz or the 833 spacing, which is what I've got there, I believe. Or does that just walk you through the 833 spacing? Oh, that's just walking me through. Okay, so never mind. That's not changing anything. It's just stepping you through it. Don't listen to me. And that, I don't know what that's doing. Oh, you know what? That might be the 833 by doing that. Because now we're getting like these decimalized versions of other stuff. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, so if you're using 833 spacing, you can get kind of funky there. Cool. Alright, well let's go ahead and take the aircraft up. I do want to check the autopilot thing here and see what that looks like. And then we'll do an example with this RNAV. Once we get in the air, we'll stabilize and we'll find a VOR that we want to move. So, let us go. Is there a windsock around here? I just want to do this down and dirty. Oh, there it is. Looks like it's pointing this way, but it's very flat column, so I don't think it matters. So we're just going to taxi the end of this runway over here and go. Okie dokie. Release the brakes. And we'll start our rolling. We'll turn on our lights, anti-collision, steering with the feet. We're going to do 10 degrees of flaps for our takeoff as suggested. Alright, so this button right here will switch between loc and GPS, so nav GPS switch. This will switch between GPS approach and OBS leg. I'm not sure what those guys do. And I still am not sure what that guy does. So let's go right here. We got lots of runway and we're a small little aircraft. So I'm going to close our window. And we will take off. Here we go. Full send. Airspeed's alive. We're into the white arc and the green arc. I'm gonna let it build a little bit of speed, and then we're gonna go ahead and just gently pull back the nose, and we're up and off. Gear retract. Oh yeah, I want to see if that's a vent or a light, so let's go landing lights. That is a vent. So that center light is there's no taxi light, it's just landing lights. Good to know. And then of course we can put our headphone simulation on. That calms the engine sounds down significantly. I personally love the engine sounds up like that, but I know I'm trying to talk, so probably not the best idea in the world. That's a cool looking tank. A little America 250 going on there. Is that what that is? I don't know, that looks cool. It's awesome. Awesome. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's go track. So 252. So we'll slide that around here. You can see how the deflection is, that needle is essentially deflecting to the side there. And as we come around, that should go the other way as we line up with the VOR. Well, as we line up on the 252 radio. So let's go ahead and go this way. Up there we go. So let's bring it in. So it's coming back. Now again, we are very close to the VOR, so we got to be careful. over the top of it, so tracking it's near impossible at this stage, but that's fine. It's just kind of a cool way to do it. Oh, let's put the flaps up. Never raise the flaps. Gotta remember to do that. That's a cool looking building. What is that? Oh. Interesting. Oh, that's that Hard Rock Cafe looking thing. Big giant guitar. That's cool. Alright, so DME, you can come over here and we can tune at 11440. Right there, and 35, so you can see the needle is very close to 0 because we're like right next to it, but as we fly away from it, that needle will slowly increase, showing we're getting further and further away from the VOR. Down here you can see a whole bunch of little specks. That's not lightning, that's probably anomalies, so we could turn that off and back on. That will kind of reset that for us. But then watch that instrument as I cycle the pitot heat. Let's see if it's going to do it. There it goes. You see we can start to get the little anomalies there? Super cool. Super cool. Alright, so we can move our heading over here. And I'm going to engage the autopilot. So we'll just go heading, and if we engage alt, I think it's just gonna hold, no, it's gonna try and, I think it's gonna capture our 2500 that we've got set here. What we could do though is we could change this to 35 and change our vertical speed to say 10, which would be 1,000, and then go to vertical speed, and that should go to 10,000, and it'll try to hold 1,000 until it captures them. Now that's probably a little steep for an airplane like this, so you wouldn't recommend doing 1,000 feet per minute necessarily, all the way up to whatever your altitude is, because we are bleeding airspeed off slowly but surely. And that does answer that. White is up, by the way. And then we can always bring that back down to, let's say, 600. That's a little more reasonable. And it will go to capture the altitude. Alright, let us attempt to demonstrate this fun little RNAV thing, because I think this is super cool and weird all at the same time. So, what we're going to do... now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. There's the easy way or the hard way. The easy way is if you use an airport as your place you want to put a virtual VOR on, because the airport will automatically list a few of the nearby VORs and the bearing to them, or the radial off those VORs. So it does a lot of legwork for you. But if we wanted to use something else, or even just a random point in space, which we could do, then we have to do the conversions ourselves. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to... let's see if we're picking up the Dolphin. That's the down by Miami, 113.9. I would imagine we are. So let's go 113.9. Whoops. 113.9. We are. We're picking up the Dolphin. And we can see here 113.9. There we are. We're about 15 miles north of the Dolphin VOR. This doesn't tell you north, but I just happen to know we're north of it. So, and we can find that out by just getting your mode track. There we are. Bearing to it's 187, so we are 15 miles north. So you can get some really good situational awareness this way really fast and just kind of get some information, which is cool. But if we want to try to move this VOR, that's what we're going to try and do. So we want to fly to... I'm going to move the thing over here. So we're somewhere... I don't have our cursor up because I don't think it's connected right to work. Oh, no, there it is. So we're right there, so we can kind of cheat and see where we are. there's the Dolphin VOR. Now, we can fly to it easily on instruments right now, but that's no fun. That's boring. What if we wanted to fly to Keys? We don't want to fly to Dolphin. We want to fly to Keys. Well, we can't do that with our conventional setup because there's no way to track that. We don't have a GPS. But I can move the Dolphin VOR to Keys, and this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to use the trace tool in Navigraph. I'm going to click on the Dolphin VOR, and we're going to look at Keys, and we're going to see that it is 8.4 miles on the 281 radial. Sorry, on the on the 101 radial. That's 281 bearing. So I'm going to write that down. So 101 and 8.4. I'm going to clear this. Now this is where we have to take into account magnetic variation. So we're going to look at the Dolphin VOR. Now my cursor already accounted for magnetic variation in the area, so I need to see if the Dolphin VOR is different. So the Dolphin VOR is 4 degrees west. Keys is 7.4 degrees west, so they are different. So that's about a 3.5 degree difference in west. So west, we're going to have to go the other way. So instead of adding, let's see, this is what always gets me backed up here with the west versus east. So further east, we're going to add. West, we're going to subtract further. So from 101, we're going to subtract an additional, I think. Or no, we're going to add because we're changing it. I think we're going to add it. Let's find out if we do it wrong. So let's add 3 to it. So that's 101, so that'd be 104. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go down here, and we're going to put in... That needs to be, I think, open, just RNAV on. So we're going to put in the radial, which is going to be 104. 104, and we're just going to... Actually, we can do... That's right, we can do decimals. So it was off by 0.5 additional, so we'll do 104.5. And then the distance was 8.4. Oops, that should still be 0. 8.4. Alright. And assuming the Dolphin is what's in there, which is 1390, and we go localizer to RNAV, you see it's on track right now, 135. So let's go ahead and spin ourselves over to 135. And right here it's telling us 134 bearing and 22 miles from where we currently are. Oops. Oh, dang it. I just realized you couldn't see like what I was doing half the time. So sorry, I'll go back and show you here. My bad. I can't see the tablets on the screen, so... Or not anymore. But, so 134, somewhere in there. So what I did was we made sure that the Dolphin VOR was set on nav 1, and then put our radial distance that we calculated, 104.5, and our 8.4 distance right here. I believe this one might do nav 2. Not 100%. And then we made sure we switched our localizer source over here to RNAV. So we're spinning around right now. Now it's 137 bearing to the station. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to switch this off of track, and we're going to treat this like a VOR, and I'm going to say nav. And it's now going to track just like it would a VOR, at least it should. So we kind of watch this thing and verify that's what it's doing. disconcerts me because it turned the wrong way. So I kind of have a feeling it's not doing that. Yeah, see, it's getting out. Okay, so we may have... I wonder if I need to put this in a different... Oh, RNAV. There we go. Yep, that's what I had to do. Okay, so this needs to be in RNAV mode. Simply knocking this to RNAV isn't enough. That just does the gauge, and then this guy will actually allow the autopilot to lock in. So now we're turning to engage to drive to that 137. And what I could do now is I could just bring this guy in. So it's there, and now it's gonna... We're on the needle, so it's gonna fly 141. And we'll see if this brings us to Keys. And this will tell me if I did my... if I did my accounting right or not, or if I got it horribly wrong. I think I did it wrong. I think I was supposed to do... I think it's the other way. I think I should have subtracted instead of added. It's going to be close. No? No, I think we're right. It's an illusion. I think I did it right. Yeah, I think I did it right. Yeah, so when it's west and it's a difference, it's an addition. Well, it's west and it's an addition, but it's also it was a difference that was less though, so that's what was confusing me. You got to get your head around the math, and I need to write myself a little cheat sheet so I just have it. So I go, okay, if it's west, it's add, and then if it's less than west, it's add or minus and whatever. Because if I do the opposite, if we said it was 101 and we were going to subtract 4.5, then this should be 107 or 106.5, I guess. Or sorry, 96.5. So I kind of want to try that, but it's looking like we're going directly there. So I think we're correct. So I'll show you now on the map. So remember, the Dolphin VOR is what we're using to navigate to this, but here's what the map shows. There's us, and if we draw a line from Keys through our airplane, we're going right to it. There's the Dolphin VOR, and we're not tracking it. So through triangulation math, it has done fun miracles, which is super cool. So theoretically, what you'd want to do, if you were going to navigate with this, you would want to, in your flight planning, you would want to have these numbers and these corrections all done ahead of time. You don't want to try and do these on the fly in the airplane unless you absolutely have to, because it's a lot of work. And especially if ATC comes on and says, hey, fly direct Keys, and you haven't prepared for this, you would probably tell them unable, I need a vector. Because you'll be able to set it up and kind of get it to work eventually, but you really wouldn't necessarily be flying that way. You know, you could put Keys on your flight plan and then have these numbers set up so that way you know you can use the Dolphin VOR to find it. But yeah, if you're flying on VATSIM or something like that, you'll just need to be... And I never feel bad about telling a controller, hey, unable, we're using a rudimentary form of RNAV, so there's a lot of math I have to do in order to fly direct. I can't just type the station in. So if you can give me a VOR, just give me vectors to it, and then I'll be able to track it in a little bit. You can do that. But yeah, so this is then telling us we're 12 miles. I'm curious what this does. Bearing 5, 7. This might be a bearing from the station that we track to us, because that looks about right. And then the distance to the actual station. Oops, don't do that. there's Miami International. Yeah, I think so, because that's showing 6 mile range. That's showing 6 miles. So yeah, so hitting VOR DME is going to show you, it's weird though, it's showing you a bearing from the station, not to the station, because we're north of the station right now. So a bearing to the station would be the reciprocal of this. So this is from the station to us, and this is how far from the station we are. And then this is our bearing to the point we created, and the range to that point. Oh, it's just blank because the sun's shining on that. Let me mess with this guy real fast. Let's go EGT. Does that just lock our temperatures on? It might have. It's still showing other stuff, which is fine. But if it doesn't show a fuel flow... Fuel flow, there's... Okay, yeah, there's the... Okay, so it's just kind of gonna either show EGT or fuel flow, or if you put it in all, it'll show both over time. So it is affecting that. Okay, that's good to know. Test lamp. Active, armed. Yep, so we're coming up on Keys here in 6 miles. And I don't think it will do... I don't know if it'll do any kind of cone of confusion. It shouldn't, because we're not flying directly over a station. But I'm wondering as we transition it, if it'll just try to circle around to re-intercept that bearing. So you'd want to watch that as you get close to it. Just like as you get close to a station for reals. You notice it's kind of starting to compensate a little bit back and forth, because that window is narrowing, just like a real VOR. I think that's what's going on there. I don't think that's weathering that's doing that. I don't think I noticed that before. So we'll see if it kind of gets a little more pronounced as we get closer. But you can see we're right bang on to Keys. Right there, look at that. We're going right at it. All right, I'm going to pause right here for a moment. This is a day later Moose coming at you through the magic of editing. Some of you may have done the math in your head, although I'm counting on the fact that most of you hate this nonsense, and so you did not. But I have to tell you, because I'm going to get comments otherwise by the one other nerd that likes this and goes, "You did it wrong," because I did. So I'm saying in this video that we're bang on, but if you look at my nose here, we are not bang on to Keys. And I actually watched this happen. I didn't put the tablet up when I saw this happening, not because I was embarrassed by it, but I think I mentioned it, and I will mention it when our airplane is right here at this point. You'll hear it in the video that I say we're skirting a little bit to the south, and I think I commented on it like you could see this, but I don't think I pulled this up, so I was looking at it on another screen. But I outed myself anyway. But I explained it away, saying that it's just like, the thing isn't, that accurate. And so we're flying a little bit south of it. But no, that's because actually I should not have added 3 degrees to the Dolphin VOR radial I got. I should have subtracted. So, and this is the part where I was... confused in my head, because it is confusing, and I was trying to do it on the fly while recording, and that's never a good way to do math, especially for someone who's not a mathematician. So let me explain this to you in a way that you can remember it, because this is how I've committed to memorizing it, because it's weird. So when you have additional like a VOR that has a higher magnetic variation or a lower magnetic variation than the local magnetic variation, and the local magnetic variation and the station are in east coordination, then you are going to do the opposite than what you would think. So in other words, if the station was less than the amount, you would add. And if the station was more than, you would subtract. So it's backwards, it's opposite. And when it's in a west orientation, you do exactly like you would think you would do with math. If it's less, you subtract. If it's more, you add. And so the way I'm choosing to remember that is just like how we've all had to memorize that east headings get a odd altitude and west headings get an even altitude, even though you'd think that east even would make sense. It's the opposite of that. So you always say east is, I think the phrase was always east is odd and west is even odder, or something like that is the phrase that sometimes people use to do that. But it's all about just memorizing the fact that east is odd, and if you can remember that, then you remember the west is even. So because I've had that drilled into me, my reasoning is that east is odd, and so math is opposite, and west is math in correct form. so when the magnetic variation is an east orientation, like back in California, if the station is got a greater magnetic variation than the heading, I'm going to subtract, and if it's got a less, I'm going to add. In this case, it had a less magnetic variation, but we're in a west orientation. So because it's less, we subtract, we don't add. And so instead of 101 going to 104, I should have gone from 101 to 98, 97. It is at a halfway point, so you can kind of fudge that a little bit. The reason why it doesn't look like it made that much of a difference is two things. One, we're coming at the station, not quite at a 90 degrees to the thing, but at a very northerly angle. And so that hides a lot of the error, because you have to remember that the way we're basically giving it a distance from the VOR and drawing a circle at that distance, and then finding radials on that point to specify keys. So it's not that keys move straight down when that is wrong, it's curving down. And so it's pulling itself in. And because we're coming from above, that error is hidden a little bit, because keys is moving down, but also this direction. And so it's not as obvious. The other reason is because 8.4, I think miles was what it was, is not very far. So 8.4 miles on a 4-degree variation does not prove a very big error. 60 miles at a 4-degree difference would be a significant and very obvious error. And so this could just be explained away as just instrumental, inaccuracy. But I flew this again later that night because it was bugging me. I was looking at, because I was doing the math going, no, wait, the math, I did it wrong. But then why did it look like we were almost bang on? Like, how was that? And the picture was slowly coming to me. And so I got back in the sim and I flew it again. I wanted to make sure that the sim didn't account for different magnetic variation than the Navigraph did, or something wasn't right. And when I did it with the correct math, this thing flew right bang on top of keys. It was perfect. So it is literally just, it was off, but it was off so little that it didn't make that much of a difference. And so for me, I just chalked it up to navigation error. Turns out it was brain error, and I was an idiot. So I just want to set the record straight. So the way you can remember it is, if it's east magnetic variation, the difference is opposite. You subtract the greater, and you add the lesser. When it's in a west orientation, you subtract the lesser and add the greater to the line you get by drawing it on the station. Or ideally, if you're using a preset, if you're, by the way, I don't know if I explained this. If you're using a radial that's depicted off the VOR, and it goes to a point, and you want to find that point, you can just use that radial. If it's actually a VOR radial, because it will be already set to the magnetic variation of the station, as we talked about with the Paso Robles VOR. So you don't need to make this adjustment. This adjustment only needs to be made if you're tracking off of in Navigraph's case, a blue line, because that signifies it's an RNAV line, and it's not actually using the station's magnetic variation. It's going to be using a GPS waypoint at the station. Or you're using the measuring tool because you're going off to a point that's not on a existing radial. Any existing radial is going to be published to the VOR's correct, set calibrated magnetic variation, whatever that may be. So then you don't even have to take it into consideration. So, for example, this waypoint up here is on this line, and I can't zoom in on this and see it because it's literally a still from the sim right now that I'm using to do this magic. And I can't even read what that says. It looks like bummer or banger or something. I don't know. But if I wanted to fly that, this radial is labeled down here as something, 330 or something, or 335. I don't know what it says. But you could just use that and then find the distance, because that line will be calibrated already. But if I want to go to PIMA or whatever this says, I have to draw the line, and now I have to do the math, because the line I'm drawing is going to use area magnetic variation, whereas the station is going to use possibly something different. If they happen to be the same, no additional arithmetic is necessary. Okay, sorry, that was kind of a long rant to explain that I was stupid, and I was stupid on the internet, and that's, not unlikely to happen again. So now back to your regularly scheduled program, and if I say anything about how accurate this thing is, or, because I will, and how inaccurate it might be in some sense as you get close to the station, just know that's because of my stupidity and not because of the RNAV thing. I've said it. It's going to happen. I'm not going to bleep it out. You're just going to have to just know that later Moose realized he was stupid, and I've come to correct the error. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Now, there's some things, because we're just mainly focusing on this RNAV thing, I'm not doing. Like, I would have leaned out my mixture a little bit. I would have my prop RPM down. I just kept everything kind of full throttle at the moment. But normally you'd want to be doing some of that. Yeah, and as we get a little bit closer, it's showing we're kind of starting to drift off to the side a little bit. So I think the accuracy kind of degrades as you get closer to the point. Yeah, we're kind of drifting down now. So I think within about 2 miles or so, it's kind of, the accuracy's not great. But I mean, considering what it allows us to do, it's pretty good. Yeah, we're gonna pass Keys ever so slightly to the south. But I am curious to see what it does when we actually pass the station. This should flip to a from. Yeah, that's about as... Boom. There we go. That flipped to a from. And it looks like it's just going to fly outbound on this. Interesting. By resetting it, I don't know what it's doing. It's kind of dipping to the side. It's kind of weird. But anyway, that gives you a good idea of how that works. It's a really cool system, and again, do a couple little training things with it and kind of get used to it. I want to test out this ILS thing, so we're going to go to Miami here. I'm going to go, because it's right behind us. I'm going to pick up the ILS for runway 27. Let me find it here. Now open the charts with the airport. 27 ILS is 1095. So we're going to set here 1095. So there's the ILS right there. So it's already showing us a thing. This is a volume mute for the marker beacon. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to put 1095 on the nav 1 here too. So we're going to go back to heading, and I'm going to change this to 1095. And that's going to go back to nav, and that's going to go back to nav. And that is 272 that needs to get set to. I'll turn back to the airport here, so have the airplane do that while I'm messing with my gauge. And you can kind of keep your eye on this little guy here and see how that changes as we turn here to intercept. .272. So I would read from this instrument, I think that I am high, because the glide slope is below me. So there's the airport. So I'm going to go ahead and take the autopilot off, and we're going to pull the power back. What's fun is if you pull the power all the way back and the gear's not out, it'll give you a warning, and it sounds like a egg timer going off. Hello! So you basically can pull the power down as low as you can without hitting that. So all I'm doing is messing with the prop right now. You notice the speed didn't really change much because the RPM goes down, but that's because the pitch of the propeller is taking a bigger bite out of the air. So you're not really helping speed by messing with the prop, because it's basically holding the same speed, unless you kill the engine, at which point then you lose all your speed. Oh, there we go. See that? We're getting on glide slope. It's starting to come up, and it's coming up there too, so we see it in both places. Alright, so we can shallow our descent now. See the localizer coming in, because yep, there it comes, and we're aiming for one center dot. There, we're getting a little low now. There we go, one dot, almost. Notch of flaps, gear down. I missed it. I was trying to see the gear thing. So you see the piston going up and the gear traveling. Just kind of cool. Just want to show that off. I am trying to land, so I should probably pay attention to what I'm doing. I'll do another notch of flaps. Now we're getting low ski. Let's go full landing flaps. Okay, there we go. So we got one dot. That's what you want. Just one dot. Anything up or down, you're above or below glide. Like that, we're below. So it's opposite. So you basically you pitch the aircraft to the dot. So you see a dot above, pitch the aircraft to the dot. And same thing with the lateral. You'd always fly toward the course deviation. That's below. Now, if you want to fly the glide, like if you want the autopilot to do it, you would use this. This one can couple to the autopilot. This cannot. Also, I'm sad there was no marker beacons going off, so apparently there's no marker beacons on this. Oof, sorry. Forgot how my deck angle looks in this aircraft. But hey, we got those big trailing gear mains, so we should be fine. So there you go. That puts it down here at Fort Lauderdale, at Miami, and we can just kind of coast in. But that's how that guy works. So you get that guy working there, and then obviously you can use it with this guy as well. And if you want to couple to the autopilot, then you would use this approach GPS/approach button, I believe. So yeah, it's not a very complicated aircraft, but it's fun. It's got some cool gadgets in it that we haven't seen before, and of course Black Square with their typical modeling of engine vibrations and nose wheel shimmy and engine movement around and failures and these cool RNAV. I mean, just Black Square really takes up a lot, and the sounds are fantastic. You can really hear them again in the airplane. And you'll get fouling, you'll get rough idles and missing and stuff, so you got to take care of the engine and treat it right, otherwise it'll get crappy on you. And you don't want a crappy engine. I'm just going to pull off into the grass here because I can. It's a sim. I can do that. I can do whatever I want. So parking brake. So again, the key to the RNAV 511, the main thing, just a quick little recap here. You want to set your nav1 to the VOR you want to move. And then you want to set the radial to the place where you want to move it to from the VOR and the distance. And make sure you account for magnetic variation. And use the station's magnetic variation, not local magnetic variation. And if you do that, this will give you the bearing to your new waypoint and your range to the new waypoint. By pushing VOR DME, it will give you the bearing from the station you chose to you. So you need to take the reciprocal to find your bearing to the station and the range to the station, which I find odd. That's kind of weird. And I don't know what the waypoint button does. Oh, you know what? That's whichever one is selected is what you're gonna, when you're in RNAV, that's what's gonna tune to that. So I am guessing this other side is tuned to COM2. That would be my guess. I don't know, but that would be my guess. Let me change it back to, so there we get information there. And if we, yeah, because now we're looking at waypoint, this waypoint. If we put the same information, so this is 105 3.2. We should get the same thing over here if we do that now, if we put it on this. So if we do 113.90 on this guy, okay, 105.32. Oh, that's because VOR. Yeah, so that we're picking up the number 2. Yeah, that answers that. And then if we were to do this, 104. Oops, sorry, 1045 and 8.4, 103.5.1, 103.5.1. So yeah, so you can have two different, either using two different VORs or two different whatever, but you can have two RNAV waypoints queued up and then just switch them between here. That'll determine what goes onto this instrument up here. So that's kind of cool. So it gives you some options. So you have some pre-tuned stuff. It's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the turbo real fast. We'll just one last look out here at the exterior. You can see with the flaps down, kind of what that looks like. And as I move the control surfaces there, see how the rudder moves opposite as I move in control surfaces? It's kind of cool. I'm not doing that. So yeah, let's take a look at the turbo. Let's go to flight and configure. Oh, whoops. Same thing. Imagine that. Let's see. So there's so you'll have the 114 and the 114 TC are turbocharged. And so we take a look at some of the liveries. I think the liveries are pretty much the same, or maybe they're different. Oh no, we have some different liveries for this one. So you get the, oh, that's kind of cool. That's very much like what we had just now. So you have some similar and some different ones. Actually, these might be the same, just in a different order, now that I'm seeing it. Yeah, because there's that red one. I think they are the same, they're just in a different order. Yeah, because there's that green and black, or sorry, green and gold. Although I don't remember if this, I don't remember that one. That might be the only different, because I think I have seen that one in the non-turbo. Anyway, let's just do the same kind of livery here, because I like blue. I like blue. And just put me at the runway. Can it reset my flight conditions? Yes. Alright, so because we lined up here, it's got the engine running already, so just kind of like before. I'll give it a little bit of, give it a little gas. Oh, wait, that says flag, that's different. Oh, it's defaulted our avionics different, much to my chagrin. But we now have some new things. So we've got some controls here. Alternator, we have an alternator number 2 option, fan off, comp, fan low high. Was there something? No. So that's different. That would be the air conditioning. And I think that's the only air conditioning stuff. Again, this is all like an aftermarket deal, I think. And if we look at the tablet, we can see now we have a turbo. So there's the turbo. So for those of you who don't know how a turbo works, exhaust gases hit the turbine blades, and just like the turbine blades of a jet engine, spins that thing up really fast, and that is connected to a shaft that drives a compressor and brings the air and compresses it and forces it into the engine at very high speed. So we can have much higher manifold pressure even at high altitude because we're compressing the air artificially. But that also allows us to drive when that thing goes full bore. Having that extra will actually give us a power boost, and so we can have a much higher compression rates and higher power by shoving more oxygen into the cylinders. And because we shove more oxygen in, we can shove more fuel in and burn more fuel, which is more energy, and bam, wham bam, thank you ma'am, we have a whole bunch of more power. So not only does it give us more power, but it allows us to fly at higher altitudes, because whereas the manifold pressure would be trailing off at, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 feet, the manifold pressure will stay nice and high until you get around there, and then even the turbocharger can't keep up, and at a certain point you stall out as well. So, but you can go higher. Right, so that's the difference there. And so we can see if we boost that power. You see those things spin up there. And as we spin that power up, it actually opens this little waste gate here to let some of that power through, because we actually don't want all of that raw power going to the turbo, because we can burn the turbo up. So it schleps some of that power off over there, which is kind of cool. And then, also, since we have the air conditioner, if we go into cabin, now we have our additional alternator. And so if we turn that guy on, and then we hit the compressor. There we go. Compressor starts to spin. Condenser outside. The evaporator inside. And the fan. And I don't know what is the outside of this thing. My views don't work for this because I haven't been in here yet. Something obvious they did to route air into the things or something, or I don't know. I don't know if that's there in the other one. That might be part of it. I don't know. This, I believe, is the ambient air in from the tail inlet. That's, I don't think it has anything to do with the compressor. Yeah, somewhere that's getting outside air to it, and so on and so forth. But it's dropping cooled air into the thing, and so we can turn the blower up to high. And I'll spin that up more. We'll get more cooling air. So it came down from 83 to 82, and it's continuing to drop. And so we can actually get cooler air into the cabin. So yeah, so if you want the turbocharged version with a air conditioning option, there you go. If you want the basic model, you got that too, and both come with it. So it is a fantastic little bird. When it's first, I'll be honest, when it first got announced that it was dropping, I kind of went, oh, that might be kind of cool, but I don't know. When I actually got my hands on it and realized this is like Comanche Part 2, I love this thing. This is such a cool aircraft. So highly recommend. Pick up a copy. This is available from Just Flight from Black Square, and it is a cool bird. And if you love general aviation, I think you're going to love it too. It flies really nice, and I'm sure it'll have some updates here in the near future as they work out a few little last bugs. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty solid aircraft. Sounds great, flies great, looks great, has amazing avionic options, and everything from fancy glass GPS for those of you that love that, all the way to old school, crazy, weird old RNAV stuff and antiquated DMEs for us old fogies. So, and everything in between. You can't go wrong. So, catch me streaming over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mustafa. I'd love to see you over there, and we'll be flying this thing at some point in the near future. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, I'd love to check you out there. Hit the Discord link down in the description. You can join the Discord, ask questions. You can ask questions, obviously, in here, but to get faster responses, better responses, and responses from more people than just me, then the Discord is the way to go. So if you're not on Discord, you got to get on Discord. It's a great place. We got a great server with great people, great mods, and it's just a very encouraging and supportive atmosphere over there. I'd love to see you. Again, twitch.tv/Mustafa. Generally stream Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, and Saturday mornings, but there are exceptions to that depending on my work schedule. And of course, we have our monthly karaoke on Sunday nights, first Sunday of the month, usually, but it moves around. So again, schedule for that is also in the Discord. Are you hearing the theme there? Discord, Discord, Discord. So, all right, that's gonna do it for me. Again, shout out to Black Square and Just Flight for allowing me to preview this for you guys and give you guys the kind of lowdown on this. And hope to see you guys flying this around the skies. It's really cool. Take care, everybody.